Hey everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think you encounter every single day as consumers, and that is brand loyalty.
Hmm.
But specifically, how millennials and Gen Z are changing the game, and what brands are doing to keep up.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how this whole landscape of brand loyalty is changing so rapidly.
Absolutely. To guide our deep dive today, we're going to be looking at this marketing article that outlines 11 strategies that brands are using to connect with millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff in here.
There really is. And I think one of the things that really jumps out at me right away is how much these generations value digital self-service.
Yeah, it's like they almost have this I'll figure it out myself attitude, even when it comes to things like customer service.
I mean, think about it. You're
Yeah.
probably way more likely to go to a website's FAQ section or try to troubleshoot with a chatbot before ever actually picking up the phone and calling customer service.
Oh, absolutely. I think there are actually some interesting psychological factors at play here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these generations grew up in the age of information. Answers were always just a Google search away. So they value control. They value independence. And I think that really extends to their interactions with brands as well.
Plus, sometimes those automated systems are just more efficient. You're not sitting on hold for an hour listening to terrible elevator music.
Right. It's a win-win from a business perspective as well because it empowers the consumer, but it also saves the company money.
Makes sense. The article also dives into the impact of social media on brand loyalty. And, it's not just about scrolling through your feed anymore. It's really about brands building communities and relationships online.
It's become so crucial for brands to meet these generations on their home turf, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever it may be. They need to be present, they need to be engaging, and they need to be responsive.
Yeah, the article actually mentioned a beauty brand that hosts live tutorials and Q&As on Instagram,
Oh.
which makes a lot of sense because that's where people are already spending their time.
Exactly. It's all about building that sense of belonging,
Yeah.
building that trust, which ultimately I think translates into loyalty.
For sure. But it's not just about the digital world, right? We also have to talk about omni-channel consistency.
Yes, this is huge. It's about making sure that the brand experience is smooth and consistent, whether you're on their website, their app, or walking into their physical store.
Yeah, have you ever had that experience where you love a brand online and then you go to their store and it's a completely different vibe?
Oh, it's the worst. And honestly, that disconnect can really damage brand
A
trust.
100%. Okay, let's talk about something that I know can be a little bit controversial. Personalization.
Hmm.
I think some people get freaked out about brands collecting data, but this article suggests that millennials and Gen Z are actually kind of okay with it, as long as it's under the right circumstances.
Well, what's interesting is that they're willing to share that data in exchange for personalized experiences. I mean, think about it. You probably appreciate it when a brand remembers your preferences or makes recommendations based on your past purchases.
Yeah, it makes you feel like they get you.
Right. And for brands, this is like gold. Being able to gather and analyze data allows them to create those hyper-personalized experiences that really drive loyalty.
Yeah, and speaking of making things easy, the article also highlights the importance of speed and convenience.
Mm.
It's all about instant gratification these days, right?
It really is. Millennials and Gen Z, they've grown up in a world where everything is available at their fingertips. They expect lightning fast response times, streamlined purchasing processes, 24/7 support.
I mean, who has the patience to wait around for anything anymore?
Exactly.
And, we all know how frustrating a clunky website or an endless phone menu can be.
It's the worst.
So brands are really focusing on making every interaction as seamless and as frictionless as possible.
Yeah, if you want to win over these generations, you have to make it easy for them.
All right, here's something I found super interesting in the article. It said that over two-thirds of millennials and Gen Z would actually ditch a brand if it doesn't align with their values.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's huge.
I mean, it shows just how much emphasis they place on ethical and sustainable practices. These generations are purpose-driven, and they're not afraid to vote with their wallets.
They're holding brands accountable, which is pretty powerful when you think about it.
It really is. It's a reminder that businesses need to be mindful of their impact on the world.
Yeah, it's not enough to just talk the talk. They want to see action.
Transparency and authenticity are essential for building trust with these consumers.
Okay, so we've covered digital self-service, the power of social media, the need for seamless experiences across channels, personalization, speed, and ethical practices. It's a lot to keep in mind. But these are really the key factors that are shaping brand loyalty today. Are you ready to dive even deeper?
Oh, yeah, we've got a lot more to explore. Stay tuned for part 2 of this deep dive.
Coming right up.
Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into brand loyalty and how those millennials and Gen Z are really changing the game.
One thing that really stood out to me from the last part was just how much these generations really value authenticity.
Yeah, it's not just a buzzword to them, it's a core value.
Yeah, I mean, they can sniff out a fake from a mile away. Can you imagine trying to pull one over on Gen Z with like some cheesy marketing campaign?
No way! They're so savvy and they expect transparency from the brands that they support.
Yeah, and the article brought up this really cool example. It was a clothing company that's completely open about its supply chain.
Oh, yeah, I think I read that one.
And they even have like an interactive map on their website where you can trace the origin of like each garment.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it shows they have nothing to hide and, they're proud of their ethical practices. And it makes me as a consumer just feel so much more confident about supporting them.
Oh, for sure. I think that level of transparency is so refreshing, and it really builds trust with those consumers, especially millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah, and it's not just about being ethical, it's also about showing like the human side of the brand.
Exactly. Drop the corporate facade and let people see the faces behind the logo.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a brand, do like a behind the scenes look on social media? Or maybe they'll like introduce their team or show like how a product is made.
Oh, for sure. Those are always my favorite.
Me too. It makes the brand feel so much more relatable and personable.
Right. It's like you're getting a sneak peek into their world, and it makes you feel like you're a part of something special.
Exactly. That's what builds those genuine connections that lead to long-lasting loyalty.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, are you ready for this?
Hit me.
Let's talk about the future.
Mm.
This article touched on something that was like pretty mind-blowing, which was the potential of augmented reality and virtual reality in retail.
Now we're talking. This
Yeah.
is where things get really interesting. Imagine a world where you can try on clothes virtually from your own living room.
Wait, hold up. You're telling me I could shop for clothes without even leaving my couch?
Exactly.
Sign me up.
And it's not just clothes. Think about being able to take a virtual tour of a hotel room before you book it, or visualizing how a new piece of furniture would look in your home.
That's incredible.
These technologies have the potential to completely transform the retail experience, making it more immersive and engaging than ever before.
It's like stepping into the future, and I can't wait to see what they come up with next.
I know, right? It's going to be amazing. But hold on, we've still got more ground to cover in our deep dive.
Yeah, you're right. We are exploring 11 strategies that brands are using to connect with the millennials and Gen Z, and we're just getting to the good part, so let's keep going. Okay, we're back. It's the final part of our deep dive into brand loyalty and how millennials and Gen Z are kind of like changing the whole game.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground already, but we can't wrap things up without talking about one crucial element.
Ooh, okay. What is it? Feedback. It's so important for brands to actively seek out and respond to feedback from these younger generations.
I can see that. I mean, they're used to having their voices heard online. And I guess they probably expect brands to be just as responsive. Exactly. Think about it. You leave a review for a product online. Or maybe you send a brand a direct message with like a question or a suggestion. What happens next?
Well, I hope the brand would, you know, acknowledge my feedback, maybe even take action based on it.
Exactly. That's what shows that they're truly listening and that they care about what their customers have to say.
Okay, so it's not enough to just have a suggestion box or a feedback form on a website.
Mm.
They need to actively engage with that feedback
Hmm.
and show that they're taking it seriously.
100%. And it's not just about addressing negative feedback either. When someone takes the time to leave a positive review or share a great experience, brands should acknowledge and celebrate that too.
Oh yeah, like a virtual pat on the back. It kind of reinforces that positive behavior.
Totally. It all comes down to creating that two-way dialogue with customers, showing them that their opinions are actually valued.
So to recap everything we've talked about today, brands need to embrace digital self-service, leverage the power of social media, create those seamless experiences across all channels, personalize those interactions, prioritize speed and convenience above all else, and operate in an ethical and sustainable way.
Yeah, and as we just discussed, they need to actively seek out and respond to feedback.
Wow, that's a lot for brands to keep in mind. But it really just highlights how the whole power dynamic between brands and consumers is shifting.
For sure. It's not a one-way street anymore. Brands can't just dictate the terms. They need to meet consumers where they are and adapt to their evolving needs and expectations.
I think the brands that really get it right will be the ones that win the loyalty of these really influential younger generations.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, it's been an awesome deep dive. I hope you've all enjoyed it as much as we have.
Me too.
We've covered a ton of ground today, but the conversation definitely doesn't have to end here. We'd love to hear your thoughts on everything that we talked about today.
Yeah, head over to our social media channels. Share your insights, your expectations for brands in the digital age. What strategies do you think work best? Let's keep this conversation going.
Until next time, keep diving deep.